Salisbury Museum is known for its outstanding archaeology collections. That's mainly because of the material from Stonehenge and the surrounding landscape. Our collections are designated by the Arts Council because they're of national importance. But of course there's a lot more material in depth. We have material from many other periods as well, not least the Roman period. In the Wessex Gallery we have the fabulous Roman mosaic from Downton that was discovered in the 1950s. And it's unsurprising that we have many other bits and pieces from that site in our collections. And that's what I want to have a look at now. So this cabinet here is full of pottery from many sites across South Wiltshire. But one of the things I want to show you is this lovely little beaker here on the bottom of the cabinet. Complete Roman beaker that came from the Roman villa. And this dates back to the 3rd or 4th centuries AD. So it's about 1,800, 1,700 years old, which is about the same age as the villa itself. And it was made in the New Forest, it was made in the local area, and it's an earthenware. And you can see, if you look at it closely, that you can got the colour of the ceramic there coming through. That's that orange colour, but it's the surface of it is covered with a watered down clay, which is called a slip. Now what I love about pots like this is that they leave clues from the person who actually made it. And what you can see here, if you look at the bottom there, look at the base, a little pedestal, if you keep turning it around, there's some marks like that one there. Well, those were left by the person or the potter who manufactured it back in the late Roman period. Because it's covered in a slip, this watered down clay, it had to be dipped in it before it was fired in the kiln. And it was held upside down, something like that, and then dropped into a pot that would have contained this watered down material. Pulled out, and that would have covered the surface with that dark material that would have came out in the firing. But in doing that, you can see the finger impressions of the person who made it. I love this because this is a direct connection with the person who manufactured this pot in the Roman period. It's really exciting to actually see their traces from all that time ago. We also have boxes and boxes of building material from the villa. So this here is a roof tile. It's called a tegula. It's part of one of the flat roof tiles that would have covered the roof of the building. And these typically were rectangular in shape with a ridge running down each side. This is probably only about a third of one of those tiles, and there would have been many of them covering the roof of the building. These tiles sat side by side, and the gaps were covered with umbrex, which are curved Roman roof tiles, and this one's rather well wrapped up. So this is part of one of those curved tiles. So that would have sat over the gaps between these flat tegula. So a roof made out of these tiles would have been very heavy, but it would have looked very similar to the roof of a building you would see perhaps in Italy today. We also have more finer pieces of decoration from inside the building. So I love this. This is actually a piece of decorated wall plaster there. You can see a bit of red at the top there and a bit of, might be sort of green or blue below. This is paint that would have been applied when the plaster was still wet on the wall. That's how it was fixed in place. So these are very small fragments that give a hint of how well decorated the building was. And of course this building probably didn't belong to somebody who was aristocratic, but probably belonged to a local farmer who was fairly wealthy. His family, they may have lived in the area for generations and had actually built up enough income to basically create a villa that showed their affinity with the Roman way of life. This here is actually a piece of flooring. It's a piece of tessellated or mosaic floor, held together with mortar. These small cubes are called tesserae. It's another lovely one, if I just grab it there. You can see. Another clue we have to the opulence of the building is this tile here. This is actually from part of the underfloor heating system, the hypercaust. So the way they heated buildings was not with a fireplace, but with a furnace that was outside the building that generated heat that was passed through spaces underneath the floors and through the walls of the building. It then had to escape through a vent in the roof. So this is actually one of the tiles, part of a hypercourse, the underfloor heating system that actually held up the floor. There were stacks of these that were hidden from view, but absolutely necessary to support the floor and provide the space for the heat to circulate. Now that nicely links in what I have in the final box I just want to show you here. This rather heavy object is a box flue tile. You see why it's called box, because it's square in section or rectangular in section. And this effectively was a pipe that sat in the wall to convey the heat through the building, from under the floor, through the walls, then out through the roof. Now these are quite easy to spot, even fragments of them, because of this comb decoration that you see on the surface. This was actually applied when the clay was still wet, not as decoration as some people think, but actually to key in the mortar so it would attach itself to the wall. So you can see it's on that side and on that side as well. So we've got many fragments actually from these flue tiles in our collection. The important point here to remember is that for all this opulence that we're looking at here, these sites, Roman villas, really represented the top end of Roman society and life in this country. Most people living in this country in the Roman villa, in the Roman period, did not live in buildings like these. They lived in small farmsteads, probably made out of organic materials like wood and thatch, and those have not survived in the archaeological record. So this here really represents the top end of Roman civilization. For most people, life would have not been as we've seen here.